It's all under control.
Is UK wrestling the same as US wrestling? Ooh, that's not good.
It's more proper, isn't it? I said
It's
I did
right.
reply. Don't worry. You know exactly. See,
Yeah, no, UK wrestling. You guys got. Oh, what is
nah, it's
that?
all the same. I'm only messing. I only watch the WWE because that's all I've got time for. I think UK wrestling has been absorbed by WWE anyway,
I
which is a
think
tangent in itself. You know,
yes.
they've
I
got this
think
kind of
they came
training
in
around
with
here.
they came in with NXT and
Mm,
kind of shut everybody down, didn't they?
yeah,
Because I am aware of I don't watch wrestling, but I do like to keep up on the content. And so over the years, I've watched different outfits until I get tired of them. So
mm.
you're gonna for sure be my new outfit because I don't have one right now. Um, but Simon, oh, he's on What Culture Wrestling.
They've sold out.
Yeah,
They all have.
they lost me a few years ago,
Yeah,
but
they all have.
is that Simon Miller?
Yeah, Simon Miller, he sold out because he's a wrestler and he wants work, so he's not
Right.
really going to talk crap about AEW as an example. So his content always seems to be leaned towards, not intentionally, but if there's any mistakes, he's always going to find them with one company and not the other. It's all about access, isn't it? They've all sold out
Yes.
for access. Some companies give it more easily than others, which is a bit embarrassing, really, because this stuff is so obvious in modern social media.
Yeah, that's the crazy part is I don't know what the future of that looks like because when you look at kind of and I say YouTube because I think that the internet kind of for the most part the pulse of it is on YouTube and it kind of splinters out
Yeah.
from there. But YouTube is very authentic. You know, the people that are growing, they have a voice and or they have found their voice and they say what they think and then as long as you gravitate towards that style of person or they think kind of similar to you you kind of attach yourself to that person and you start like you said people start just trusting what you say and the reason they trust you is because they believe that you're authentic that you are giving them the real version of you when you're explaining like what you thought of Daredevil.
Yeah. I mean, we won't go too deep into it because we'll be here all night, and I'm aware we're kind of on the clock. But you look at WWE is going for a transformation. It's all about social media influence. The people talking about wrestling need them now more than WWE need the people that talk about wrestling. They've got kind of big entertainment names in. They've got the whole kind of Netflix thing going on. And that's why they've kind of skyrocketed and had a bit of a reinvention. Whereas kind of you look at the closest competitor, allegedly AEW, they whore themselves out for anyone. But obviously the price of admission is that you then need to whore out for them. And that's what's been kind of going on in the wrestling world. And the wrestling podcast we just did was probably the best one I've ever done so far. We had a good 30 people watching on X and about 7 or 8 watching on YouTube, which was good.
Nice.
Because we're not, we're calling the WWE product as we see it. And if we can move into AEW, maybe we will. I'm not really too bothered about it. But that's what it should be about. It shouldn't be about talking to get influence or talking because you're going to get something. You just, as you said, just be saying what you're feeling. And if people agree with that, great. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where I think I see the mainstream failing and
Yeah.
I don't even blame them at this point because like what are they supposed to do because they can't do what you do
Die.
because they are like you said every single person in the mainstream and when I say that I mean I'm talking comic books, I'm talking written books, I'm talking anything. They've been running on this system of synergy where you say the right things, you be friends with the right people, and then you're able to get on this show and it promotes your book, and you get on this show and it promotes your movie, and you get on this show and it promotes your
Yeah.
you know, whatever the thing is you're doing, but you have to play nice with the system. You cannot criticize anyone within the system, or that system will blacklist you.
That's the thing, isn't it? Particularly with, wrestling being such a niche thing. What these people are going to find out very quickly is I think we're going to see a lot of big, like What Culture. I think they're only hanging on by kind of the skin of their teeth. Cultaholic in the UK is the closest thing. They're going to die ultimately because they're not going to be able to sustain themselves now. People are finding their own independent kind of creators they want to, and they just don't want to listen to spoon-fed crap. And what Cultaholic should have been doing is closing down and getting jobs in the industry that they wanted, because they're not going to be surviving very long commentating on it, in my opinion, anyway.
And that's where I find it to be fascinating when you watch the evolution of that, because those channels started by talking smack, by telling people what they thought, by being authentic, but then they realized we need access, we have to play nice, we need sponsors, we need to clean this up, and they ended up becoming like they exist because they were counterculture, but then they became counterculture to monetize that, and then other channels are born off of that. And I just see that that's something that's dying. That is something that's dying, and you see it in the mainstream media. They don't know what to do because they can't do something. They cannot be authentic because every single person that's sitting in front of a camera that goes onto your television, they are paid actors.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they cannot be authentic. That's not their job. That's not what they're good at.
They can take the repercussions that come with that, unfortunately. And I think, like I said, we're going to see a wave of these kind of channels or businesses kind of go under. And, it's time. It's time, as you said before, for independent creators to get more of a limelight. Because like I said, it doesn't matter to me whether people kind of sign on to my wrestling podcast or not. They do. It's great. If they don't, then, it is what it is. But that's what people want. They want to be listening to a genuine opinion, not one that's been bought with access to a show or something.
I agree. So going back to AEW, which I've never heard anything good about, but when you go back to sort of the origins of that, and you'll have to help me out because I can't remember, what was the first show that Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks put on? What was that first one called?
It was called All In, wasn't it? If memory serves. And I didn't see it. But that kind of, they were always friends. Well, allegedly friends. Turned out that maybe wasn't the case, as we know now.
Right.
And that's, when you've got Big Money Tony Khan. Allegedly, he was given the money to fund AEW because he was so bad at what his dad was asking him to do. He was literally ruining football companies, ruining American football companies. So his dad gave him money to start AEW to get him out of the house. And then you're surprised kind of 2 or 3 years later on to hear that there are backstage assaults, lawsuits, and all that kind of stuff. And it shouldn't really surprise you.
No, but I remember when it happened. And again, I don't watch wrestling. No one in my family is really a wrestling person. I just like staying up on top of things. Yeah. I remember telling my lady friend, I said, I think I missed out on something, because when that happened, like when you were watching all the behind the scenes videos or all the vlogs, like it really seemed like that was the beginning of something. And I do feel like I wish I would have been there.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, that leading into AEW's creation, the first year of AEW was fine because they were doing things that WWE wasn't. WWE was a very stale product. But the minute WWE took the foot off the brakes and we saw this evolution, which may or may not have been because Vince McMahon was brought up on federal charges for pooing on people's heads. They found themselves in real trouble real quickly. And we found you've got a CEO that doesn't know what he's doing. He can't say no. He's got too much money. He keeps spending it. The inmates run the asylum, and that's not really how you run any business, let alone the wrestling business.
No, yeah, that was that's interesting. And I like to get Cornette's takes on it, but boy, he just hates everything. So sometimes you can't trust.
Yeah, true, but I think he's coming from the hardcore place, isn't he, of territory wrestling,
Right.
and you could argue maybe that's the purest form of it. I mean, look, it is fashionable to hate on AEW, but I mean, you look at what they've just done. I've seen a clip of a guy throw another guy onto, how can I put it, like a spiked bat. And this spiked bat has went into this guy. I mean, like they can't pull this sucker out. And this is on like live TV. And you've got to imagine the networks for, I don't know if it's HBO, whoever it is they're with now, getting a little bit kind of worried, like, what is this doing on television? You've got blood everywhere. You've got, this guy just there with this, nails on a 2x4 effectively. That's what they consider to be entertainment. It's like, it's not. That's just, stupidity.
No, and I think from what I see from a distance, AEW never learned how to tell stories.
Yeah, and they never learned how to tell people, no, you can't do this.
Right.
No, you can't drive a spiked bat into your back. No, you shouldn't. I think there was an incident where live in the UK, funnily enough, someone used a real proper car glass kind of windscreen as opposed to taking it out and fixing it, so to speak. And he was told no, and he still did it anyway. And instead of being fired, they just let it go. It's just things like that, The inmates run the asylum, and you get what you ask for.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the thing. Something a lot of people that don't understand how it all works. They point out that Vince McMahon made a lot of horrible decisions when it came to wrestling, but he also made some of the best decisions.
Definitely, we wouldn't have modern wrestling without him. I think the problem is he was getting a bit too old and set in his ways.
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of know from lawsuits and information that came out, we kind of know why he was going around the twist, because he seemed a little bit unstable.
The memes are glorious.
Well, like I said, I'm not joking when I say poo on someone's head. That's fact. Well, as far as court documents go, he was having a hard time with something, so you can understand. But like I said, the minute he was kind of out of the picture, you had this big merger with TKO. You look at what WWE do now, and there's just no comparison. Production values, kind of everything, camera work, everything about it is better.